Hi, this is 365801, and this is another Did I Complete My Buzzword Reading Challenge? And this is for my Futekiya reads. So this video is going to be in two parts. The first part is going to be looking through what I read in 2023 on Futekiya and seeing if I completed my Buzzword Reading Challenge, which would just be the video on its own. But then I do think we're going to have to make a little bit of a discussion at the end of the video to discuss what happened during 2023 when it comes to Futekiya. So let's start the video straight away, just as I would have done last year, which I of course did a video of. So I'll put a link in the description and up in the corner if you want to go and check out last year's review video for Futekiya and the Buzzword Reading Challenge. And let's see if I actually completed it using Futekiya only for my Buzzword Reading Challenge for 2023. So I scrolled back on my page and the read section to see where I started reading in the year. And I had read Beast's Storm Hold Me Baby in December, and that was the final one that I read in 2022. And then I read Beast Storm Touch Me Baby in January the 10th, 2023. So that was the first one I read on Futekiya. It's a Kuroi Mori title. It's the continuation of Beast Storm. I absolutely chuff and love it. I really wish we could get a physical copy because I would read and reread the shit out of it because there's babies, animal characteristics, everything. But it also has Storm in the title, which means this can be used for my weather prompt. Yes. It also has Touch, which is a verb as well. So I could technically put this down for February's one as well. That's another prompt. So yeah, Beast Storm is the first one. Now the next title I read was actually a reread. I went on a bit of a Suzumaru Minta reread streak in March, and I read I Didn't Mean to Fall in Love, and fall is a verb. Love is also an emotion, so this could count for 2 months as well. I absolutely love this one. I read it obviously in March digitally on Futekiya, and then I got a physical copy, which is a 7 Seas publication, and I read that in physical too. So I've definitely read this multiple times this year, and I'm so happy I have a physical copy. Just like Beast Storm, it means that I can read it without having to have a subscription if I want to, and I like that. I then went on to read Golden Sparkle by Suzumaru Minta, and I have now picked up a physical one of that too. Yay! So I'm hoping that all Suzumaru Minta titles will just get physical releases at some point. These are really lovely ones. Now, the next title was also another reread. March was just full of rereads, and that is Marriage to the Wolf, The Tale of an Interspecies Union by Inui Hana. And this is one I've obviously read before, and I really enjoy it, and it's really cute. And apparently there is a second volume, but we don't have it yet. And so I'm hoping that we will at some point get one. The next title was one that I had already read a couple of volumes for, and that is Unfazed by the Disaster in My Life. And this is by Shimaji, and I chuffin loved this. This is adult men in their late 30s, early 40s discovering bisexuality, love it, and discovering a relationship. And it's just so much my kind of story. And it's also by Shimaji, and Shimaji just does amazing work. And this is a story that I read the 2 volumes, and they released a 3rd volume in 2023 in April. So I was able to snaffle that up. Absolutely love it. And it does have life in the title, which means this will be for my January prompt, Life or Death. Now, at this point, I do start reading for the the video that I made that was in April when the merger took place. I will be talking about that a bit more later. And it was a lot of Omegaverse. So it was Omegaverse part 2, part 3. I don't know how many Omegaverse videos I've made now. And it was My Destined One by Hanselde. And We're Aboard by Fate by Kinako. and City Light's Birthday by Hongo Chika, and We Aren't Secure by Sojima Yuko. Over onto the other page, we've got A Lying Omega's Guide to Getting Bitten. Now, this is the first one I could actually put on because getting bitten is a verb. So we could use this for the verbs as well. Yeah. But other than that, we haven't come across one. Marking omega, to mark something, is a verb. And don't touch little star. Don't touch. Touch is a verb. So we're getting a lot of verbs in the omega verse stories. Stray dog's night. I can't use any of those. And romantic lament. I can't use that either. And then please bond with me. To bond is a verb. And I can't use that one either. So for that video, I did not manage to get any of my buzzwords. Now we move on to some other ones that I read for a video, and this was in the mystery tag. Now I did want to read them in March, and I did kind of start some of them in March, but I ended up finishing them in April, but the video didn't go up until May, so it was kind of a bit of a disaster. But let's see if some of them could help with my buzzword prompts. Now the first one is A Real Fortune-Telling Disaster by Muro Ayako, and I obviously finished this on April 10th, and I didn't really enjoy it, but I do think maybe I could use this for a prompt because October's is magic, and if you're fortune-telling, and in this particular manga there was a lot of like crystal balls and palm reading and things like that, and that for me is like sort of mystical magical type things. So even though it's not 100%, I'm going to use it. And so I'm going to put down A Real Fortune-Telling Disaster for my October prompt for magic. Now after that one I had Fall of an Immortal. This was by Mushiba and not particularly a favourite of mine. Then we had Kakine and Keidai by Omaru, which was terribly interesting and I enjoyed that one, but not good for the buzzword. And then I had Love and Howling by Masa Masaru, and love is an emotion, so I think we could have that as our emotion word. Now, after Love and Howling, I also read Just Love the Monster for that video, and that is by Tsukizuki Yoshi, who was also the mangaka for the adaptation of Until I Meet My Husband, which was fantastic, and I really enjoyed this one too. The art is lovely. Satsuki Awaits, because I really enjoyed Masa Masaru's first one, and this was also very good. But neither of those helped with my buzzword. And then I read The Secret Between Two, and of course it has the word secret, and that means I have completed that buzzword reading prompt. This was by Kurachi Mikoto, and it was very similar to, is it Super Morning Star? Very similar premise. Now, after that, it was coming to the end of May, which was coming to the end of my subscription, and I was not renewing it. I will talk about that in a second. So I was just reading some random titles that took a bit of, like, caught my eye, and I thought, why not? Stigmata Love Bites, which was really interesting. Cutover Criteria by Omugi Koala. This was now published by Tokyo Pop as well. Rebirth, Aso Mitsuaki, which was a new Omegaverse story, so I of course had to read it. Then The Furthest Love in the World, also by Aso Mitsuaki, because I enjoyed the first one so much. And then Happiness is Always Beside You by Nohagi Aki. Of course, happiness is also an emotion, so I suppose you could use that for the emotion prompt too. And then The Boys Love Comic Artist Buys a Delivery Host, which I thought was going to be great, by Fukushima Yuka, and it was only okay. It was only okay. And then the final one, which was Suehiro Machi's Kind of a Wolf, which is very similar to one of the other Suehiro Machi works, and I enjoyed it a lot. But that was May 27th, so the final day that I could read anything on Futekiya for my subscription. So in terms of how I actually did with Futekiya for my Buzzword Reading Challenge for 2023, this is the result. I did manage to get January's Life and Death prompt. I managed to get February's Verb prompt. I managed to get March's Secret prompt. And I managed to get April's Emotion prompt. But then it all kind of fell away. I did not get May's Flavor prompt. I didn't get June's Other prompt. And then I managed to get July's Weather prompt. I didn't get August's Body Parts. I didn't get September's Game Words. I then got October's Magic Word, but then I didn't get November's Good or December's Sound related words. Now, last year for this, I decided to read some, and I was going to do that because I did this video last year in November, so I had plenty of time, but it's really close to the end of 2023 now, and I'm not going to go out of my way to read some things on Futekiya just to complete this prompt. I'm gonna say it's a bust. I'm gonna say I managed to read until May and then I stopped. And considering that I read until May and then stopped, I still managed to get quite a few prompts. Getting half of the prompts for half of the year is pretty good, and I feel like if I had continued on with my subscription after May, then I would have had a much better chance of completing this challenge. And if you've checked out my BL manga one and my main little romance one, then you know how I did in those prompts for those challenges. And so for this challenge not being completed, I'm not too disappointed because in the end, I did read for the time that I had the subscription up until the end of May. And now we're going on to part 2. So this leads me on to talking about Futekiya as a whole, or I should say Manga Planet as a whole, and the impact that the merger has had on Futekiya and on Futekiya's customers, specifically their subscribers. So when I did the Omegaverse Part 2 reading vlog back in April, I started it just before the merger and I continued after the merger had taken place so I could compare and contrast my reading experience on the website. And I do recommend that you go and watch that video so you can get my initial first impressions, my reaction to certain things changing, and it's a little bit of a rant video, so if you enjoy rant videos, I do recommend it. And if you like Omegaverse, I certainly would recommend it. Now, there were certainly a few things that video brought up, and it was certainly very obvious that there were certain things that I was not enjoying, and I can probably just name a few things off the top of my head. One was the fact that the synopsis were all gone. There were no more synopsis for any of the titles, which is a real difficulty for me because I read quite a lot, and so remembering what the story's about is a little bit tricky if I'm reviewing it afterwards. But also, I'm old, and so my memory's not the best. Also, I kind of want to know what a story's about before I go into it so that I can see whether or not it's something that I'm going to be interested in. And sometimes you can pick up on things through the synopsis that you can't necessarily pick up on tags. The other big change that I was really disappointed with was the fact that there was no longer the viewing of what chapters you had read from a particular title and which ones you hadn't. You could go into the particular page for that title and you would be able to see, but you couldn't see at a glance if, for example, you had only read 5 out of 6 chapters, or if you read 5 chapters and a 6th one had just been uploaded. That was something that was really useful so you could know that's something you needed to read or finish. There was, of course, the differences in the search bar and the browse features, etc., and how difficult it was with the new introduction of the point system and the new introduction of points-based titles being added to the so-called, and I would like to use inverted commas here, library, because I'm not entirely sure if it's a library if you have to pay for it. And finally, I think the really big thing for me was the lack of a safe space. We were now in blue territory and no longer pink, and this was really obvious and it really was felt from the offset. You were just part of a whole and you weren't something special, you weren't in your own little space, and it wasn't completely geared towards the Futekiya subscribers who are predominantly, I'm not going to say exclusively, but predominantly female, and therefore have a certain atmosphere. And even if you're male or non-binary, maybe you enjoy that atmosphere. Now, some of these things have been addressed and they have been discussed in videos and interviews with the people who work at Futekiya, including a very cringy, I'm not entirely sure if anyone else felt that, interview with the CEO of the company. It was very manufactured and almost I would like to say probably overly scripted. It felt very uncomfortable. It was obviously someone who worked with Futekiya being forced to interview the boss and give very corporate answers. And unfortunately, Futekiya or Manga Planet gave a lot of very corporate answers to very legitimate concerns of their customers. Now, they have been working very hard and they have reintroduced or reinstated certain things. A very recent one was bringing back synopsis and bringing back the page counts, or chapter counts, I should say, that you've already read. So you can see at a glance. These are things that I appreciate. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that they are making changes back to the things that we actually liked about the site in the first place. Now, one of the features that I didn't really talk about too much in that first review video that I think needs to be addressed now as still being an issue is the schedule. Now, we had a fantastic schedule for Futekiya website because everything that was on it was Futekiya and everything that was on it was a subscription-based library edition. So it didn't matter. We could just see at a glance how many, i.e. the quantity of titles that were being added, as well as what was coming. So for those who are interested in specifically what they're going to be reading or they're going to get excited about in the future, that's really important. But also if you're getting value for money, being able to see how much you're getting for your money is also really important. Now, they do have a schedule on Manga Planet. But if you go into Manga Planet Pass, which is of course their new name for a subscription, even though it's still a subscription, and they just needed a new name for it to, well, exactly, it didn't make any sense, their explanation. But if you go in and you look at whatever is being released that day, it gives you everything across the site on Manga Planet. And you have to go into the list options and deselect everything other than the Futekiya site to be able to see what's being added for that day. And often there isn't anything. And you have to do that every single time you change a day. Every single time. That makes it really difficult to see what you're getting and if you're getting value for money. So that's what I wanted to find out. The very real and the very legitimate question that was asked by multiple people across multiple social media platforms at the time of the merger was, will the quantity of new titles or new chapters or new volumes to titles added to the Futekiya library for subscription holders, i.e. Planet Pass holders now, would that be significantly different? Would it change? Would there be a drop? Specifically, would there be a drop? That was the concern of most customers. At the time, of course, the CEO and anyone on the social media team were giving the very standard corporate answers of, we're going to be adding multiple new titles to the library on to the website. You're going to be able to access it in a variety of ways, which makes it more accessible to a wider range of customers, which is bullshit. We all know it was. It's basically saying, we're not going to answer your question because the answer to your question is probably, yeah, you're going to get less for your money. But that's what I want to find out. So I did. Now, we are, of course, concerned with the impact since the merger, and the merger happened on the 3rd of April, 2023. Now, the date that I'm filming this is around the 22nd of December, so we can look at the impact since then and also compare and contrast the previous year. So here comes the science bit. We took the 3rd of April to the 22nd of December, inclusive, either year equals 264 days. I then counted how many new titles or whether it's been a new chapter or a new volume added. It didn't matter. Every new title added since the 3rd of April to the 22nd of December for both years. Now, the total number of new titles added since the 3rd of April 2023 until the 22nd of December 2023 is actually pretty staggering. It's 268 new titles. So if we divide the number of days by the number of titles, we actually get 0.9. So there's one new title added every 0.9 days. So it's more than one a day for new titles added since April this year. So since the merger. However, this is a big caveat, that includes all new titles, the ones that you can get through your Manga Planet Pass, i.e. your subscription, and including the ones that you need to pay some or all to read some of the chapters. There have been a significant number of new titles added that are just extra for paying. So you need to pay extra to view. In fact, on the 3rd of April, there was well over 60 new titles added, and they were almost all, I think there was only one or two that were subscription based, and the rest were all ones that you either needed to pay in full for the points, or you needed to pay just some of the later chapters, which I think is such a dick move. By the way, Manga Planet, here, read 4 chapters, but the last 2 you need to pay for. That is absolutely shocking and really rubbed everyone up the wrong way. But the number is significant, and the number that drops is also significant. So if we take out all of the titles that you need to pay anything for, from the 3rd of April to the 22nd of December, it goes from 268 to 66, a drop of over 200. If we take that 66 and we divide the number of days, 264, by 66, we get 1 every 4 days. So if you are reading just using your subscription from April to December in 2023, and you're not paying anything extra, you do not get access to 200 plus new titles added, and you're only getting a new title or chapter or volume every 4 days, which is significantly different to 0.9 days. Now I know what your question is. Does that have a difference in 2023 as it did in 2022? Because if it's the same, surely we're getting the same thing. It's still value for money, right? So I went back and checked from the 3rd of April to the 22nd of December 2022 and how many new titles were added to the Futekiya library, because there was only the Futekiya library and there was no extra points, anything else for extra purchase, and how many new titles, whether it was full titles, chapters, or volumes added, how many between those 2 dates. And the number is, drumroll please, 108. So it's very clear in terms of quantity only that there is a difference. Now if we take the number of days, 264, and divide it by 108, we get the number 2.4. So we're getting 1 new title every 2.4 days, which is significantly different to 1 every 4 days. That's a big drop. So if you're expecting 1 every 2 to 3 days, but you have to wait every 4 days, you're not getting as much on the site, and you're probably not visiting the site as much. And if you're looking at all of the things that are being added and you don't have any extra money, you can't read any of the new titles, which is very frustrating. Just looking at the basic numbers of 66 to 108, it's very clear that there are less titles being added to the Futekiya library, i.e. the Manga Planet Pass access for just BL titles. And it's not like we can't check, because I literally just went on the site and counted. It was that simple. So they've added 108 new titles in 2022 and only 66 in the same time period in 2023. So when they say we've added loads of new titles, we've made it really great because it's accessible to many more customers, there's no change whatsoever, they're lying. It's bullshit. It's not the truth. And you can see it very simply by counting how many titles have been added. So in terms of the quantity only, it's very clear that the Manga Planet Pass is not giving you the same quantity as the Futekiya subscription was a year ago. But we're not even touching on another aspect, which is quality. Are you, as a Manga Planet Pass holder, just as excited about the titles that you're getting every 4 days as you were last year with your Futekiya subscription, getting every 2.4 days? Now, the only way to do that is to do some qualitative analysis. So if you'd like, make sure you comment down below. I would absolutely love to hear from anyone who has been a Futekiya subscription holder that's now a Manga Pass holder. What have you found about the site? Is there anything that you still don't like about it? Is there anything like me you wonder, are you getting value for money? I'm questioning how much would it cost to read everything that is on Futekiya, because that was the joy of Futekiya before. You could read everything on the site, and now if you wanted to read everything on the site, how much would it cost you? And that's maths I'm just not doing. But if someone else wants to get a spreadsheet out there, have at it. Yeah, at me. I would love to know. I'm wondering if anyone who has actually started using Manga Planet and found that they love it and they like it much better than Futekiya. Do you access the shonen, the seinen, and the josei, and the GL, Yuri titles that you weren't able to access before? Are you really excited about being able to read all of those titles? Do you actually purchase points and read some of the other BL titles with points? I'd love to know, are you out there? Because I haven't actually found anyone in my circle or anyone who watches or anyone I've interacted with on social media who actually purchases any of the points and pays extra money on Futekiya or on Manga Planet. I would love to hear from you, and if you're finding it a much better service than you were before. Now, in saying all of this, I do have a subscription. I have one again. I should say I have the pass now, because in October they were doing a special deal and I swore I was not going to get another subscription or the pass until I could get it for a really good deal. And in October they were doing it for half price. So I managed to get the 12-month subscription or pass for half the price as usual. So I have it until October in 2024, which means I do have some more time to use the site and see if I like it, and if not, I won't go back to it, and actually analyze how many more pass only titles they add to the site, because that would be really interesting, considering that they're constantly promoting a lot of titles being added, and almost exclusively those ones that are being added are ones that you need to pay extra for with points or money. I don't think I'm going to enjoy being on the site as much as I did when it was just Futekiya. I also want to point out that I really hate the homepage, because every single time is the new releases that are being put and promoted on the top of the page, and almost exclusively they're ones for like seinen or even josei, and there's big breasted women wearing very little clothing, and sometimes it's honestly just tits and pussy on the front page of your manga website, and I feel really uncomfortable seeing that. Most BL our cover art doesn't have that much nudity. Like, it might be a bit suggestive, but in terms of the seinen, it's literally just tits and pussy, tits and pussy, tits and pussy. And I know that sounds really crass, and I apologize, but it feels really crass when I go to the home web page and that's all I'm seeing across the board. I don't know why that's acceptable. I feel really uncomfortable seeing it. I'd love to know if anyone else is like really put off by the fact that all of these new titles that they're adding to the site are just basically porn, no plot. And that's not what I read BL for. I know it makes me sound like a prude, but I read BL, so there's no way I could be a prude. My plan going forward for my use of the Manga Planet Pass is just to try and see if I can actually use it. Previously, I'd said I would gonna read everything on the site or try to read as much as possible. That might actually be a lot easier considering they're not adding that many new titles that are subscription only. So that might be more of an achievable goal in 2024. So watch this space. I will try and see if I can read some, especially if they're ones that were uploaded previously that I was excited about and I just didn't get around to reading. But yeah, we're gonna have to do a review of it before my subscription lapses in October. So maybe another video mid 2024 to look forward to. So yeah, this video is very much a video of two parts. One is, did I actually manage to get my Buzzword Reading Challenge done through Futekiya? And no, I did not. And the other one is, how have I actually used Futekiya this year, 2023? And if I've used it a lot? And the answer is no, I have not. So is it worth continuing? Probably not. And that's another analysis I'll have to do before the next subscription renewal. I'd love to know if you're a subscriber or if you use Futekiya, if you like the merger, anything to do with that. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching to the end of this video. I know it's a long one, it's kind of a chatty one, but also it's kind of a bit of analysis, and that's what I really enjoy, especially at the end of the year. Look forward to some more end of year content with lots of statistics coming soon when I do my year in BL review videos for 2023. I'm looking forward to doing them as well. Thanks so much for watching to the end of this video, guys. Take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!